Welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're digging into Pleione ZETO. It's this new data security solution that's really making some waves, and I know you guys are interested in learning more, and so are we. We've got a whole bunch of interesting stuff to go through, presentations, some technical documents, even some code snippets. So let's jump right in and see what makes this Pleione tick, and more importantly, why you should care.
Yeah, and right off the bat, one of the things that really caught my eye was this presentation. It's called Pleione ZETO, Clear It Use Case. It's a pretty interesting real-world example of how this technology is being used, and it's a good framework for our discussion.
Okay, I love that. Real-world examples are always the best. So let's start with the problem. What's going on with this Clear It company? What issues are they trying to solve with Pleione ZETO?
So Clear It is a financial services company, right? And they handle a ton of sensitive client data, names, addresses, the whole 9 yards, even social security numbers and bank account details. It's the kind of stuff that makes them a prime target for cyber attacks.
Yeah, that's a pretty common scenario these days, especially with more and more businesses moving their data to the cloud. But, they must have some kind of security measures in place already, right? What's Clear It doing now to protect this data, and why isn't it enough?
Right. So they're using the usual suspects, encryption, firewalls, access controls, the whole shebang. But the problem is attackers are getting smarter, They're finding new ways to exploit vulnerabilities. And these days, even a small data breach can be absolutely catastrophic.
So where does this Pleione ZETO fit in? I keep seeing this phrase, unbreakable security, which it sounds pretty bold.
It is bold, but it's based on this technology called tokenization. And it's really the core of Pleione's approach. Instead of storing the actual sensitive data, they replace it with these non-sensitive tokens.
Tokens, okay. So those act as kind of stand-ins for the real data.
Exactly. So even if someone manages to steal these tokens, they're basically useless because they can't be reversed back into the original information.
Interesting. It's like having a decoy vault. Someone breaks in, but all they find are worthless trinkets, not the real jewels, huh?
You got it. The real data is kept completely separate, so it makes it incredibly difficult, nearly impossible, really, for attackers to get their hands on it. That's where the unbreakable security claim comes in.
Okay, starting to make more sense. But there's also this other term, zero-knowledge tokenization. What's that all about?
Now that's where things get really interesting. See, with typical tokenization, the company that has the data usually also has the key to reverse the process, to get the original information back. But with Pleione ZETO, they're doing zero knowledge, which means even the company itself doesn't have that key.
Hold on, so not even Clear It can see their client's sensitive information?
Nope. Only the client, using their secret password, can unlock the real data.
Okay, now that is a huge step forward for data privacy. Wow. But how does that work in practice?
Well, they have this module called Silent Seal that handles the whole token generation process. And it uses like a unique seed file and then the client's secret password to create these unbreakable tokens. It's basically a one-way process, meaning it's impossible to go back and figure out the original data from the token alone.
Sounds pretty ironclad. But so then, how does Clear It actually use this tokenized data? Can they still, do anything with it? Or is it basically locked away in some digital vault?
Well, that's where the idea of homomorphic tokenization comes into play. And this is one of the, I think, most exciting things about Pleione ZETO. These tokens aren't just placeholders. They can actually be used in calculations and searches and all sorts of operations, just like the original data, but they stay encrypted the whole time.
Wait, so they can actually run analytics and stuff on this tokenized data without ever decrypting it. How is that even possible?
It's some pretty high-level cryptography, but basically, it lets Clear It keep their data secure while still being able to use it for all sorts of things. The presentation even mentions how it could completely change the way they process transactions, generate reports, and even handle regulatory requirements.
Wow, now this is definitely starting to sound like a game changer. It seems like Pleione ZETO offers a level of security and control that we just haven't seen before. But before we go any further, I'm curious about this gentle force attack thing that keeps popping up. What exactly is that?
It's a really interesting security approach. Basically, they're using the fact that they know how the tokenization process works to defend against these brute force attacks.
So instead of just waiting for an attack, they're being more proactive.
Right. They're essentially using their own system's strengths to outmaneuver any potential attackers.
Kind of like using judo, redirecting your opponent's force against them.
Exactly. It's this layered approach that really tackles the ever-changing world of cyber threats.
This is all super fascinating. So we've talked about the problem Clearit is facing, how this whole tokenization and zero knowledge thing works, and even this gentle force attack
Yeah.
concept. It really seems like Pleione ZETO is checking all the boxes when it comes to data security and privacy. But I think it's time to dig a little deeper into the specifics. What are the real-world benefits for Clearit, and how does this all translate into actual advantages for them?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot more to explore here. If we go back to that Clearit presentation, they actually lay out 5 key benefits of using Pleione ZETO.
5. Okay, well, let's hear them.
All right, so first up, and this is probably the most important one, is risk mitigation. See, by taking out the actual sensitive data and replacing it with these unbreakable tokens, Clearit is seriously reducing their risk, right? Even if they get attacked, there's nothing valuable for the hackers to steal.
Makes sense. It's like swapping out the crown jewels with fakes, right?
Yeah.
Even if somebody breaks into the Tower of London, the real treasure is safe somewhere else.
Perfect analogy. It's a really smart way to minimize the damage a cyber attack can cause. And that brings us to the second benefit, which is, well, kind of goes hand in hand with the first. And that's just the unparalleled security, this combo of tokenization, zero knowledge principles, and then you throw in the gentle force attack methodology, and you've got this seriously impressive security setup that's really, really hard to crack.
Yeah, the gentle force attack thing, it's pretty intriguing. It almost sounds like fighting fire with fire, right?
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's a really clever tactic. Because they understand how the tokenization works, they can basically predict and counter any potential attacks. It's like they're always a step ahead.
Like knowing the other team's playbook before the game even starts, you can shut them down before they even make a move.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that makes Pleione ZETO so unique. It's not just reactive, it's proactive.
So we've got reduced risk, top-notch security.
Mm-hmm.
What's number 3 on Clearit's list?
Regulatory compliance. This is a big one, especially for any financial company. All these data privacy laws are constantly changing. It's tough to keep up. But with Pleione ZETO, they can actually meet these requirements much easier because they're not storing as much sensitive data.
So they're not just protecting themselves from hackers, but also from legal issues.
You got it. By tokenizing all the sensitive stuff, they reduce their liability, and it makes it way easier to comply with all those regulations like GDPR and PCI DSS, all that.
Yeah, compliance can be a real headache for businesses, so that's a definite plus. What about number 4? What's the next benefit?
Okay, so this one's more about relationships. It's about strengthened client trust. In today's world, trust is everything, right? Especially in finance. So by showing their clients that they're using this cutting-edge tech like Pleione ZETO, Clearit is really demonstrating their commitment to data security.
It's like saying, hey, we take your data so seriously that we invested in the absolute best protection out there. That's going to make clients feel good, especially with all the data breaches we hear about these days.
For sure. It's all about going above and beyond to keep that information safe.
All right, so we've covered risk, security, compliance, and trust. What's the 5th and final benefit that Clearit highlights?
This one's about being a leader. It's market leadership. Because they were early adopters of this new technology, Clearit is positioning themselves as the innovators, the leaders in their industry. It shows that they're not just keeping up with the times, they're setting the pace.
They're not just following the rules, they're making the rules.
Exactly. And that gives them a huge advantage over the competition. They'll attract all the clients who are looking for the best of the best when it comes to data security.
So we look at the big picture here. It seems like Pleione ZETO is doing way more than just solving a technical problem. It's changing the way Clearit does business, from managing risk to working with clients, even how they're seen in the marketplace. It's a pretty impressive transformation.
Yeah, you nailed it. It's a totally holistic approach to data security, and it has a ripple effect on every aspect of the company.
This whole Clearit use case has been super insightful. It's given us a really great look at how Pleione ZETO is being used in a real-world scenario and all the benefits that come with it. But there's one thing I keep thinking about, and it's these homomorphic tokens. I mean, the presentation only mentions it briefly, but I'm really curious to hear more about it, what it could mean for the future of data.
Mm-hmm.
How we handle sensitive information in general. It's like this whole time we've been talking about Pleione ZETO, I just keep thinking about how much this could change things, for so many different industries.
Mm-hmm.
This idea of actually being able to work with sensitive data without really exposing it, it's kind of mind-blowing.
It really is. It's a totally new way of thinking about data security. And honestly, I think we're just scratching the surface of what homomorphic tokenization can do.
Yeah, the Clearit presentation talked about how they could use it for processing transactions and making reports, but I'm thinking like way bigger. What about something like healthcare? I mean, that's where privacy is absolutely critical.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine like a hospital being able to share patient data with researchers without putting anyone's privacy at risk. With these homomorphic tokens, they could analyze the data, look for patterns, maybe even develop new treatments, all while keeping that personal information completely protected.
That would be huge for medical research.
Yeah.
And what about like really confidential stuff, national security, intelligence agencies, that kind of thing?
The possibilities there are, well, they're pretty amazing. Think about it. Agencies could share sensitive information securely. They could work together on investigations, analyze threats, all without ever actually exposing the real data.
It's like we're finally getting to a point where data can be both secure and usable. In the past, it always felt like you had to choose one or the other. But with Pleione ZETO, it seems like we can actually have both.
Exactly. It's a win-win all around. Companies like Clearit, they can protect their clients' data, they can meet all the regulations, and they can even find new opportunities, all thanks to this incredible technology.
Well, I'd say this has been a pretty incredible deep dive into the world of Pleione ZETO. We've seen how it works, we looked at all the benefits through that Clearit use case, and we even got a glimpse of how this could change, well, pretty much everything.
It really shows how technology is pushing us towards a whole new era of data security and privacy.
So as we wrap things up here, I want to leave you guys with this. If data is the new oil, well, Pleione ZETO might just be the refinery. It lets us extract all the value without the risk of spills and contamination. It's a pretty powerful way to think about how transformative this technology really is.
It really is. It's a really exciting time, and it'll be fascinating to see how Pleione ZETO and other technologies like it shape the future of data.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Until next time, keep exploring.